first Korean player, first in Korea Korean player.
Okay, I was gonna say. All right, at 6 o'clock, we have our so far undisputed king. He is Terran. He's again at 6, and his name is Mage. Or what is his full? It doesn't matter. At 9 o'clock, which it sucks. He does kind of have that crappy spawn again, like his first match. Then at 9 o'clock, we have our teal Protoss. It's ddangkri, ding 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 ding. So, anyway, me, I'll speak for myself. I'll actually include both of us, and then I'll just speak for myself. We are gonna try to not be biased, but we both love ddangkri. He's awesome. He'll play with us sometimes. He does, which I guess I'll go through every player that maybe gave us some info on themselves so that we can also hype them up a little bit in their streams, because that was something that we wanted to do. He just helps out another Korean StarCraft Brood War fastest player, Do July, which I think is really good. And he's also really popular. Not that I think the good part is much cooler than the popular part, but I guess those two kind of work in tandem. And I'll talk a little bit about it. So anyway, and how he works with them is he'll do like translations and stuff for his videos, but he's also very active. And I was only able to catch the tail end of one game of ddangkri versus Cross yesterday. And I guess out of the 6 games that they played, he didn't win any of them. So he wasn't feeling super confident about his abilities, but Cross did say he was close to winning the last 2 games. And this is just all whatever, take it as a grain of salt. But I remember hearing when, like we hear about in ASL or GSL, some players, when they go through practice like the day before or a few days before and they lose a lot, they have a tendency to play really well in the tournament. And maybe it has something to do with, like, again, this is just me, I would think maybe it helps like your focus, and it kind of is obviously it's the opposite of giving you confidence because you lost a lot, so you're maybe a little bit more careful, you're more on top of things. So might be inconsequential, but he did have a lot of good practice yesterday, we'll say.
We're seeing a very slow and delayed scout from ddangkri, and so he still doesn't really know where Mage is, whereas Mage is simultaneously looking all over the map, but he has 3 separate scouts, so eventually he will find him, but ddangkri is definitely going to take a lot longer.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we are seeing sort of a traditional build from ddangkri where you go for the very fast tech with the cybernetics core. I'm sure he's going to eventually throw down the robotics facility with those 2 gases. And then same thing with Mage, pretty traditional build, 3 racks academy, probably going to throw down a command center and then 2 more barracks.
Yeah, I think at one point in the first game he had up to 6 barracks. Not that it necessarily matters. We'll see what he does this game. But yeah, this looks almost exactly the same as his first game that we watched him. I know in just about 30 seconds or so we'll probably see the eBay, and he should start his next CC in the next few seconds. Probably start teching up just a little bit. Since he ran into cannons, he really doesn't know what ddangkri is going for. Like you said, it is pretty standard, but Mage doesn't know that. And this is, I wonder if someday we'll ever see Terrans try to fly a barracks just for shits and giggles into the Protoss base, because he's close. So he could have flown one in and then just try to get some, because when I look at ddangkri's base, there's no cannon there. I don't know how many Protoss end up putting cannons there when they're just feeling safe, essentially. Like, they just got to protect the front. They got that protected. It's like, shoot, some fire bats. I know it's like a pretty lowbrow move. It's like a gold league or a bronze league hero type move. I think it could potentially work someday. Anyway, there's a lot of posturing going out in front of ddangkri's base. I don't think it really means anything, but he could pounce. I think he'd get obliterated. Oh shit, there he goes.
Definitely forcing him to build the cannons, which, with the build that ddangkri's going for is he is going for the attack. I don't think this will necessarily work though, even with the 3 cannons.
If the 3 Marines didn't run off, it might have been a little bit more successful. I was wrong. I was wrong.
Let's see how this does. Yeah, he did kill the
I was
cannons, but
right.
yeah, there's not much. There's not much sort of juice after that.
It's
Um,
because those three
Now,
Marines ran down. If they didn't run down, I think he would have broken the front. He probably still would have got cleaned up eventually, but go ahead.
right. Yeah, but he did see the rocks facility, so it probably sort of confirms what he was assuming. Um, I mean, this is again sort of the standard to go for after a choking, putting cannons at your choke. You know, go for the double nexus, tech into a box facility. You know, get your Templar archives, get your Stargate, and then eventually, you know, transition to Doom drops. Uh, we're not seeing a total prepared base in Mage's base, and the downside about going for that sort of bust is that you lose sort of a control group of Marines where could be used to help protect yourself. But um, now he's gonna want to make sure he's extra careful with these Marines, more so than how other players would if they had a separate control group. But
Yeah,
um, yeah, I
I
think it's gonna play out similar to how the Momo game played, where we'll see, ddangkri pretty much trying to get the SCVs and um, Mage stall and pretty much try and defend for as long as he can until he has a maxed out army.
and in Mage's defense as well, I do think when he busted Protost's front, because we are talking about how it took away some of his drop defense, but it also slowed ddangkri down because ddangkri just had to kind of go into not necessarily panic mode, but he had to put out some fires. He had to rebuild his cannons and make sure that he stayed alive. So he might have built some extra zealots, and even then he lost 2 or 3. So that's enough to slow his drops down if he wanted to, because he at one point I don't think he had any, or he just had one. Like he lost everything and then one built. Oh, is he gonna? Do they call this a bulldog when he's just gonna go in with his zealots and then try to drop the reavers on top? He stopped now,
Uh,
but I thought that's what that was
right.
called.
The supply depot is zealot tight, so the zealot wouldn't be able to run in,
Right.
and it wouldn't be able to take down the depot fast enough for the Marines to mow it down. So
He needs like one to
maybe
two
he
more
could.
shuttles.
Right. If he has another shuttle with reavers, he could potentially threaten the choke, busting the choke, while going in for a drop. But I think right
Yeah.
now, if he loses a reaver and he doesn't do enough damage, he could just get pushed and die. So
Yeah.
um, the ball is in Protos's court, but you at the same time don't want to throw away every single unit.
Yeah, you don't want to be too wasteful. That's kind of what ended up
Right.
happening to Momo is he was going for drops and he did them so much that eventually it equalized because he was just losing too many units even though he had a lot of money. And then Mage was able to build up when he got to that point. That was just kind of it. He just went for that big old one punch. So I think I don't know what's going on with these zealots. I don't know. I think they're stuck to the shuttles as well. But where it stands now, I don't think that Mage is going to see it. This is scary, actually. If he goes in, oh, okay, now he sees it. They're coming down. He's got to run all of his SCVs away. I don't know if he's going to target very well. Get him. Get him. Oh,
So those
no.
reavers didn't do much, unfortunately.
Close
He
to
did bust down
nothing.
the 2 depots, so it is going to force Mage to rebuild them. Or he could just, look to actually bust it down with zealots. But um, yeah, that drop was less than ideal. It didn't do much other than forcing a SCV pull, which isn't worth how much he invested in that.
Yeah, it was a lot of shuttles and a lot of units, especially those Reaver, those tech units, for not a lot of payoff. One thing though is that Mage does go for a later comsat station. I wonder if it would have like if he followed it up with DTs. If he was watching the base and saw that there wasn't very many turrets, especially right here at the core, he could have gone for something like a DT drop. But again, by the time it gets there, the comsat station is there. I was wondering, at least at the time, if it was going to be continually neglected, and if that was going to be the case, there's potential. But he buttoned that up. Another really big drop. You know, what'd be interesting too is to see some like hallucinated drops right through the top. I know that the turrets would probably detect that, but just seeing those red dots, you would start to move your army down and then try to break the front. Mage is really good, man. He just has just enough of what he needs. He's kind of got a position in each spot. ddangkri, however, is also doing really good. His vision's well. He's got pylons on each side of the base. It's funny that Marine's just chilling up there. So I think both are powering up well. I don't see... He's got 3 forges. He's not upgrading out of all of them. Just +1 attack. +1 attack for Terran.
I think eventually what ddangkri should opt to, or potentially
Another drop.
implement. This is so many Marines. Great double-sided. That got a lot of Marines, but any SCVs... Oh, that Reaver
Just
could have
chasing
gotten a
him.
decent amount of SCVs, but fat storm right there. What I was gonna say is eventually, if these drops don't pan out, which not to say it won't, you will want to delay the Terran's push while they're coming up. So you'll want to throw down pretty much infinite number of cannons at the main to hold and delay. These pylons at the around the base is great, but ultimately it serves almost it doesn't serve a big purpose, as Terran is content right now sitting still and just absorbing the drops while he maxes.
Right. And they're on supply parity too, so this also is looking kind of spooky for ddangkri. Like these drops have... You really do invest a lot as Protoss into these drops, not just minerals, but gas and technical units as well. So, and each time that he doesn't at least clear out a clump of these Marines, it's just one less thing that he has to do. So then it just... If you don't slow him down anywhere, okay, here we go. It might work this time. I don't know. They're kind of getting targeted down. SCVs are long gone.
Storms are... So the storm misses, unfortunately. There was only one storm that came with it, and one storm that was able to come out.
Yeah.
He's macroing okay behind this ddangkri is. What I would like to see now, considering he has to know that the damage isn't ideal, is throw down additional gateways at 3 o'clock, and eventually force a flank if Terran were to push out. Attack from both sides. I think these drops may be something that he'll have to abandon if it's not working.
Right. What do you think
he'll
about...
have to just...
Go ahead.
Sorry, what were you gonna ask?
I was just gonna ask you, what do you think about just cannons and gateways in the middle of the map? I know we've saw DeWalt do that in the past. Maybe even if it was just cannons to help slow down whatever push, because he's max. He's got 5,000 minerals, so he can do it. It's mostly just about APM at this point. But here we go again. Is this going to be like lucky number 4? This Templar's been sitting for a long time. He could storm.
Let's see if there's a storm.
Oh man,
I don't think he knew that storm was there.
He's got another one too. He's got a guy right here. Oh. The idea is there, but he's missing some key opportunities, I think. And it's not over yet, but that was like... I think that was the drop. He had 2 Templar out that had maybe 3-ish seconds, which is an eternity when you're going for something like this. And they just didn't get out. So he's still got more drops. He still has tons of money. Surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, depending on how you look at it, Terran is... Dude, he's just going to go for the kill drop now, or the kill attack move. Oh my gosh, he's still got a ton of Marines.
The difference here... Oh,
Storm,
let's see how this Let's see how those storms do.
Okay, those were really good.
Decent storms, nice. So now he's left with about a control group and a half. The difference here is that the Terran mech is not as heavily upgraded, and that he seems to have much more supply in bio as opposed to tanks versus the Momo game. Now, the difference also is that ddangkri does not have as many cannons and or units to particularly defend. So
he needs to storm. He's got all these Templar out front. Storm.
Nice storm. Definitely a defendable push, I think. And if he storms, or if he just delays long enough and or has some great storms. But the close rush distance is gonna make for a huge hassle. And the fact that he didn't have mid cannons, he's able to just walk up there almost and just get comfortable.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm feeling deja vu, except this happened a lot faster because his drops weren't as good as Momo's. Like Momo kept Terran kind of beat down for a really long time. Terran had to really crawl his way out of it, whereas Terran didn't take nearly as much economic damage this time. We see ddangkri is building some gateways on the other, like at 7 o'clock, and he might even start building at 5 o'clock and things like that. But he's got to fix his rally. This DT that's coming out is just going to get obliterated. If anything, he needs to build a few Corsairs and just try to target down that science vessel immediately. But Mage is bringing his some SCVs finally. He didn't bring a whole stack like he did against Momo, but like it's enough. I think again the ideas are there. Even when he goes to drop on this Terran army, I'm sure he's got like one more big like drop attack on it. I wish he would undo his rallies as well. Yeah, I can see he's starting to gateway up on both sides. So I mean, there's still other potential here, but he needs to. It's just those storms, getting those storms out as soon as they pop, or I don't know what you need to do to get rid of the science vessel because he's just got full vision, and these, yeah, those Corsairs are just gonna run right into the enemy. GG.
That was, I think, a clinic put on by Mage. His defense was great. I mean, he caught, or he managed to stay on top of all the drops. Didn't get sort of blindsided by any of them. And I think ddangkri put in a valiant effort, but Mage was able to sort of, show how a Terran should be defending against their drops.